why is the average rate of return that I've trusted for like 30 years suddenly the biggest threat to my retirement? Because everybody was down, 30% across the board, everybody. I said, well, hold on a second, I wasn't. And what people will say to you then is everybody's down.
Well, I've had family members, they'll have their cookie cutter, 60-40 bond to stocks portfolio or whatever, and say they're down 30%. The fund manager will still get the commission, will reassure them like, listen, you're down 30, the market's down 38, we're good, but it doesn't feel good.
Somebody in the crowd yelled out, that's my RSPs. The impact of that 1 year was that you're still up after 5 years, but the price you paid was time you can never get back. That 5 years is gone. You don't have the runway.
Yeah.
Okay, welcome back to The Wealthy Lender. This is episode 23. I can't even believe we're at episode 23. I'm Chris Nichilo, licensed mortgage broker, financial literacy leader, and founder of Magnetic Capital Group, in my opinion, Canada's premier private mortgage firm. And today, we're going to be answering a question that Canadians may or may not have ever really thought about. And that question is, why is the average rate of return that I've trusted for like 30 years suddenly the biggest threat to my retirement? Nick.
I got to say, like, that word consistency it had a totally different meaning before I got into this space, because fund managers or wealth managers or, consultants will tell you this all the time. You just got to be consistent, which means, consistently contributing to your account, consistently, staying with it, not withdrawing early. And then you'll get quote unquote consistent returns until you retire. But what they mean is average returns. But this space brings consistent returns to a whole new level.
It does. The thing is that, it's normal. I think you'd agree. Like, it's almost been normalized that if you give your funds as you're growing up and going through your money making years, if you give your money to an investment advisor and you basically sort of let them choose or choose with them how your profile or portfolio is going to be built, you would like I know for me growing up is like you expect a little bit of ups and downs. I mean, they prepare you for that from the second you walk in, right? Like they
ask you, what's your risk profile? Are you
what's
like
your
high
risk
risk
tolerance?
Yeah,
all that stuff, right? So it's like a preparation. And then if you kind of go like, 4 good years, 1 bad one, 4 good years, 1 bad one. I mean, if I asked you and you didn't have a calculator in front of you and you just thought in your head 4 good ones, 1 bad one, would you think you'd come out ahead?
sure.
Yeah, of course you would. And you would come out ahead. But I think what gets lost is the impact of that 1 bad year, that cyclical nature of the investment performance where, you're being told all along, just ride out those, bumps.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at them, they come sort of once every 5 years at least. So you get that, something turns the wrong way and all of a sudden things are down across the board. And what people will say to you then is everybody's down. You know what I mean?
Well, I've had family members, they'll have their cookie cutter, 60-40 bond to stocks portfolio or whatever, and say they're down 30%.
Yeah.
The fund manager will still get the commission and will reassure them like, listen, you're down 30, the market's down 38, we're good. But it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, no. And what gets lost is the impact of that 1 down year. So I'll share a story with you. Is years ago. So I'm in like a forum, like I'm on a panel and we're talking about just investing in general. And I'm not up there with guys that I don't like. They're all guys I like, and that we talk and share ideas and stuff. But the question that was asked was, how did your particular investment of choice perform over the past 5 years? And of course, at that, like all we're doing is residential private mortgages in Ontario. That's it. There is nothing else, right? So at that time, we're averaging 8% per year, and a consistent 8% because it was 8% fixed every year, all year. We didn't have a 9-year or a 7-year. It was 8 always. And then the other person on the stage that was going to answer the question, he says, well, we averaged 10, you know, and oh, sorry, sorry. What he said is, if you take out 2013, I think it was 2013. If you take out 2013, we averaged 10 every other year. And so when that happened, so I mean, I answered the question first. I just answered like I just did. And then he answered the question. He said that. When he said that, the moderator was like, well, hold on a second, because there's like a murmur in the crowd, right? Like everybody's kind of like, what do you mean take out 2013? And of course, he justified it because he's like, everybody was down. Or maybe it was 2009. Anyways, I can't remember what year it was. But he goes, everybody was down, 30% across the board, everybody, generalizing. And so I said, well, hold on a second. I wasn't, like we weren't down 30% in that year. And let's look at the actual how this played out. You had 4 years of 10, 1 year of down 30. How does that work out? And it turned out I'm almost positive the second year was the bad year in the cycle of 5. So we go through it. You start with $100,000. If you're me, it's 100 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, right? So it's 140. That's where you end up, 140.
It's not compounded?
No, not necessarily. I mean, can it be compounded? Yes, but the timing has to be right. So I don't like to calculate compounding in there because, let's just look at the return, simple interest, and see what it is. It's 140. Okay, and then you look at his, and here's how it goes. Here's the trajectory. So it goes 100, make 10% in year 1. Now you're at 110. Lose 30%, you lose 33.
Yeah.
33. Yeah, you lose 33. So now you're at 77.
Mm-hmm.
Then you make 10. 77 round up to 8. You make 8. Or you go up 7.7. So you go up by 8. Okay, so you're at 85.
Yeah.
That's after 3 years. After 4 years, you go up 8.5. The fourth year is 8.5 more. So you went up by 9, call it. So you're at now 94.
Yes.
And then up another 9 in the last year, and you're at 103. So are you ahead?
No.
Yeah, you are. You started with 100.
103 to 140?
No. Are you ahead? Like
ahead,
you started.
Like yeah.
You started at 100.
I mean, sure. Yeah, right.
Over 5 years, you're up.
Yes.
You're at 103. And somebody in the crowd like yelled out, "That's my RSPs." Right. So that the impact of that 1 year was that you're still up after 5 years, but the price you paid was time you can never get back. That 5 years is gone. Can't get it back. So us, boring, very, very boring, 8% every year. You never, don't go any more, don't get any less, but just, putt along. But look at the dramatic difference in result.
That down year in retirement is everything.
Yeah, so that's what connects to this episode, right? Is that you're if you have that ride and you have that 1 year, you're not necessarily down, but you're certainly eroding the ability to build a legacy fund to leave behind, or if you wanted to increase your lifestyle in any way, near impossible, and so on. So, and if you have a really bad year, it can really be damaging. Like in that example, one bad year, 30% down over a 5-year stretch, you're still breaking even. Essentially, you're just above. But what if you had 2 of those in a 5-year period? Or what if you had one that was 50% down or whatnot? Anyways, the point being is it can be so obstructive to the years that are meant to, where you shouldn't be worrying about money, right? We're looking for security.
This is nest egg payout time.
Predictability. Yeah. Consistency. We're not necessarily these aren't our money making years. We're not trying to grow the portfolio necessarily. Right. And so from that perspective, you can withstand 1 out of 5 bad years, but you're going to worry about it.
The
See,
peace of mind aspect.
it's not necessarily just like just the numbers. At that part of your life, it's like you want to be maybe snowbirding around the world. You know, you want to go somewhere else for the winter or whatnot, and you don't want to be worrying that, you know, the money isn't there. You want the safest, the highest yield you can get with the safest product, the safest vehicle.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we've talked about before, the challenge with the safest vehicles available are typically that also comes with the lowest yield.
Yeah.
And private mortgages give you that nice combination of the two. So when your income is predictable at that stage of life, your budget becomes predictable, right? You- and you can create that sort of simple existence that I think as a foundation everybody wants in those years.
That's
But riding the ups and downs of the market can be a lot more stressful, especially at that time in life, because one thing you're keenly, like acutely aware of is that time is not on your side. So you don't have time for big down years or swoons. You don't have the time. You need the consistency and the predictability now, and you just want to enjoy your life. You worked all those years, you know, raised a family, you know, whatever it was, put 30, 40 years into a career, and you know, it's time to wind down a little bit. And that's, you know, it's not going to be good if you're stressing over your finances. I mean, stress kills more people than Big Macs.
yeah, I know when I was younger, I was excited for down years. Like I you know, because sometimes you keep a bit of money on the sidelines, or you sort of that's part of your play is where you're like, hey, you know, I have the conviction now to pile in more money in down years because I have, you know, this runway. But I imagine that in retirement, that excitement isn't there. You're not thinking like, yes, opportunity, you know, I get an opportunity now because everything's down and I can scoop stuff up.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm sure there are people out there who have that sort of, that's a gambling mentality at that age, right? When you know that you don't have time to make big mistakes, when you know you don't have the room to make mistakes, then if you're still putting that money at risk, unnecessary risk, then that is a gambling state, right?
Well, just in terms of
So,
contributing to your account, like you're not necessarily gambling. It's like you're just adding to your account, right? Like whatever you're in, mutual funds, REITs, whatever. But you're excited because you've got all this runway and you're betting on appreciation. But I imagine that that mentality isn't quite there when you're, you know, 50s, 60s, later on in life.
well, no, yeah, because again, you know, you don't have the runway.
Yeah,
You know, uh, it's it's less important. It's less important to make than it is to preserve, right?
correct.
And at that stage, um, so you know, again, you get to this place where, and we've talked about this so many times. If I can determine that my lifestyle costs X, and I have enough of a nest egg to drive that amount of revenue that it costs to support my lifestyle, and I can do that on 6.5 or 7% annual returns, then that's all the risk you should take.
Yeah.
Even if 8 or 9 or 10 is out there, you don't need it.
Stay tuned for a deep dive on that one. It's coming.
Yeah, yeah. So, and kind of the last thing would be just, you know, the point of understanding how impactful a forced withdrawal can be, right? So, at a point where if your nest egg drops, then its ability to produce gets more difficult, meaning a smaller nest egg requires a larger annual yield to meet objectives. So, you know, if somebody was to watch this episode and try to gather what is the one central message, it would be just be aware of the impact of a negative outcome investment wise in your retirement years. You know, and make sure that you have a healthy respect for that maybe you don't really have to have or need when you're 30 or 40, and you have all these money making years ahead of you. And, if you try something, it doesn't work or whatnot, you can recover. I just, every situation is going to be different. Everybody's going to have their own decision to make about what they do. But the point I want to stress here is just the impact of, I think it's lost in our culture. Our culture kind of accepts that there's ups and downs in investing. I mean, that's what we've been shown. Give your money to a professional, let them do the heavy lifting, trust them, trust the process, and so on and so forth. But that's conditioned us to believe that, 4 to 5 years being good, it ain't bad. And actually, the numbers don't bear that out, especially as you get older. That may be okay, if you're into investing for the first time in your life and you're 35, and the first 5 years you only make $3,000 on your 100, and you saw a lot of things and you experienced a lot of things. You got a flavor for how investing works and whatnot. Okay, now you're 40, still got lots of time. You learn some things, apply it. If you're taking that sort of, hey, we'll see what happens mentality or approach in retirement years, you're really running the risk that you have that one bad year and it really hurts you the rest of the way. So I just want everybody to have that keen awareness, right? Of, hey, let me do the math here first before I pursue whatever I'm going to pursue, especially if it's been sold to me where, hey, 80% of the time, which sounds high, or 4 to 5 years are likely going to be up, that you still have to do the math and work it through and see where you're going to be, because you may just not have the time to recover if it doesn't go well.
What's the downside of what I'm in?
Yeah, what's the downside of mine? Oh, yeah, exactly. Take some time and learn that before you press the button.
Good conversation to have.
All right. Until next time. Happy lending.
Happy lending.